Hey everyone, thank you for joining me. I'm a guy called Joe and this is Bootstrapping Tools. And this is a Let's Build guide. But before we build together, make sure to check out our YouTube channel. We have a lot of videos on many different tools, Google Data Studio, Google Sheets, this Retool, Airtable, connecting those to databases and data sources. And we also have playlists to curate all that information for you. So check it out and start learning. But for this video, we're going to be diving into Retool and connecting that with Airtable. This is actually part 5 of our multi-part series. If you missed any of the other parts, please check out the description. We're going to have links in there for you so that you don't miss anything out here. So to dive right in before we work on things, let's do a quick review on what we've built so far. We've essentially built a way for us to get all the vendors from our dataset, and our dataset is from Airtable. It's actually one of the templates that they provide to you when you do start off. This is the product catalog template that they have, which includes the furniture information, vendors, clients, orders, and a bunch of other stuff. So we have the vendors, and we made it so that you can't see any of the other containers unless you click on one of the options preceding it. So if we click on Dine Design, then the furniture list is going to show up, and that's going to populate with furniture items specific to Dine Design. Same thing goes for Box Cask. It's going to refresh the data in there so that it only displays products that are for box plus casks. And then when we click on one of the furniture items, it's going to display the furniture details section, along with all the information relative to that piece of furniture. The size, the colors, the materials, whether or not it's in stock, a larger version of the image, and as you click through these options, it's also going to change the details in there. We also set it up so that if you clicked on a vendor again, it's going to remove that furniture detail view so that you don't get confused, seeing old data since we haven't clicked on a new piece of furniture yet. Once you click on that, it's going to show up again and then refresh itself so that you're seeing the latest selection. We also added in a little modal for the orders information for this piece of furniture. Unfortunately, nobody's ordering it yet, but the pixelated rug has had an order, and that order is by the Bloom Dentistry, because dentists really like the pixelated rug. You got the total cost, and then we also have a way for you to see the invoice by opening it up as a separate modal. And that's where we left off. So in this video, what we're going to do is, it's nice to have a system and application that lets you read all this data, take a look at it and manage that. But it's not going to be as helpful if you can't edit the information. So in this video, we're going to be doing calls to the Airtable API specifically to update our products. So diving into the Airtable API. This API, the documentation for it is all curated based on the base that you're using. To get to there, when you're in Airtable, you're going to click on the help icon on the upper right hand side, and then click on the API documentation located in the bottom of that tray. Once you click on that, it's going to pop open your reference guide, and that's going to be specific to your Airtable base. And that's why on the side here you'll see it says vendor tables and client orders tables and order line items. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over to the furniture tables here, and then we're going to click on update records. This is the one that we're going to want. So in here, zoom in a little bit for everybody, we're going to be doing a patch request over to this endpoint. So /furniture is the endpoint, and then in there we're going to pass through a JSON payload that includes records, and it looks like we're actually able to submit multiple, but what we'll do here for our case, because it is a UI, we'll only be doing one at a time. So now let's go back over to our application and let's get us a little started here. So click on the edit app icon on the upper right so that we dive into our builder UI. So I'm going to be utilizing the bottom tray here and this time around. So we have the vendors and furnitures. Let's move our line items and then the order line items up top so it's nice and neat. And now we're going to create another one. So let's duplicate the furnitures one, and then we'll go ahead and fix that up a little bit. So let's call this the update furniture, so that it's nice and clear what it's going to be doing. and then we don't need any of this stuff anymore. It's just going to be /furniture, as you know it was said in the documentation, and then the action type is going to be put. So there's a lot of different things that we can update. So let's actually go ahead and click on all these options here. So time, let's select the Ikrori chair. And that's going to populate all this information up here. And let's do something easy. Let's update the descriptions of our products. Right now that's just labeled as a description underneath the fields. So going back into our documentation, it's going to be records, and then the records is going to be an array that has the information including the ID, and that's actually what we have to put through in order to say like this is the thing that we're updating. And then in the fields we're going to pass through that. So one thing that's important to indicate here is that over here, make sure you always read the documentation. It says that a patch request will only update the fields you specify, leaving the rest as they were. That means that for every single action that we do, what we can do is we can just not pass through one of the items. That way we're sending specific updates to it. So for this case, let's just make it easy, keep it simple. We'll only start up with the description. So the body is going to be JSON. We're going to say records, and then this is going to be a JSON value. So what we actually might want to do is let's do a, because there's going to be so much information in there, let's set this up so that it is we're going to make the payload in a separate JSON query here. So let's hit new JavaScript query, and actually let's save this first. Let's not include records. Let's just save this. Don't run it. I'm gonna go to new and then JavaScript query, and then we're gonna say var. Let's call it payload equals, and that's gonna be that. So then payload.records equals that. And then we're also going to do a fields, which I believe is also an array. Let's just quickly check here. I know it's a bunch of objects. So we're going to do fields equals an object. Okay, and then fields dot, I think it's ID. Fields, no, ID is the same, so we're going to do fields dot description. So fields dot description equals, and then what do we call this? We call this text 7. So let's call this furniture description. Dot value. Okay. So actually we're gonna have to change that because we're gonna have to make this a rich text format, but I just want to kind of indicate, show you guys how this is gonna work. So let's actually pop this out, give us a little bit more room to work here. So we got payload.records equals that, and then fields equals that. So what we're gonna do is records dot push payload.records.push. We're going to push the ID into it. So that the ID, so this is record, there's an object in there. So you want to push this, so let's open this up, and then we're going to do ID is equal to the furniture click handler ID. Furniture click handler dot 0 dot ID. We actually don't need the brackets here. And then fields is fields. I think that will do it. What we'll do is we'll return payload. So that's it done. When we preview this, we expect to have a records item that includes ID and fields. So that's the ID, and the fields is the description. Okay, so this is looking pretty good. So this is good. So this query 12, let's save this. I'm gonna say, we're gonna make this, what's a good name? Naming conventions are really important. So let's say organize furniture, update data. Sure, it's nice, it's verbose. Anybody reading is gonna understand what's going on there. So it's just organizing stuff. Okay, so now we have the update furniture, and then we're going to need to make the record. So that's data body keys. Records should equal to records. So in a core requested data is going to be the data payload, so it's actually passing through an object. So what we want there, it's not really a key. Let's say raw. Okay, so this is going to be organized data. What's this object? No. Invalid request parameter validation failed. Check your request data. Maybe it can't be raw. It has to be JSON. So it would be records. So this object is no. Why are you no? Hold on. Save this first. Go back here. All right. What are we doing wrong here? So preview. That looks good. If we run it. That looks good. So we come back here. It's because we didn't run it. Okay, so we have records. There's records. We might be doing records twice though. Let's go back to raw here. Back to raw. Go back to organize data. And then we have that. Okay, so if we preview that, invalid no request. Invalid. Let me think about this. So we got the. Oh, it's not a put. We need a patch. Okay. Try that. Still an issue. Invalid request unknown. So the only thing I can think of is that we need to have it by JSON, and then which would mean that our records would have to be separate. So we do organized data again, but then let's save this for now. I don't think it's going to work. So we do preview, should give us an error. Yeah. Parameter validation. Okay. So go back here. We're not going to do within records. So what we're going to do is we just want this information. So what we'll do here is let's just return that whole thing. Do this payload equals that. So we have fields. Fields is that. Fields that. So we're going to push that. We're not going to have any of this information in the beginning. Fields, description, and then payload, var payload equals that. We're going to return this. So if we preview this, it should just give us an ID and fields. And that's the record. That's one of the records. We're going to run this so that we have it. Go back to update furniture. And then take a look at this. It's going to be ID and then that field. And this is just records. Oh, I don't want a new one. We're going to run this. Valid request unknown. Hold on, we got to think about this. So let me think. I haven't used the Airtable API in a while. So what do we? Okay, so this is the only thing I can think of because the records is an array. So maybe it needs to also be an array. Right? Preview. Okay, that ran successfully. That looks good. Okay, very nice. So let's run it one more time, see if it works. Okay, good. So note to anybody using the Airtable API, whenever you're making a patch request with a bunch of records, you need to make sure that your key is records and then the data you're sending through there is always in an array format. Now back to this regularly scheduled program. Organize furniture, update data. So we're going to use that. That looks good. We're going to minimize this now. And what I mentioned before, we actually need to make this something that we can edit. So what we'll do here is let's add another modal up here that instead of view orders, it's going to do edit information, and then we'll add description into there. So we're going to insert modal, and we all just love modals. Add that there. I don't know why this actually went down for whatever reason. It's like there's a it's like there's some weird ghost thing over here. Whatever, that's fine. So open modal, we're gonna say edit. That's the option. Let's make this a little bigger than the last one, 8%. So one true, indicating later, blah, blah, blah. We don't care about that. We're gonna say hug contents for the height. All this looks good. Input background. Sure. Why not? Border, all that looks good. And then we're gonna call this the edit modal. Okay. So within here, we want to be able to edit a bunch of different things. So let's say, so there is something called editable text. So let's put this up here. Actually, let's not get too complicated. Let's first start off with a rich text editor for our description. Okay. Nice and big. Make that hug at the side. Default value should be the product's description. So that's going to be furniture click data, handler .0 .fields .description. Okay. And then we're going to have a submit button as well, which will query, which will actually run the query at the end of it. So what we want here, and okay, so maybe we don't need the thing to be 80%. If it's 80%, what does it actually look like? Well, that's not bad. 80% is fine. We can totally do this at 80%. The only problem is that the editor itself is going to be blocking everything. So let's move the button to the center for now. I think that's okay. Maybe we can make this a little bigger. I guess maybe it doesn't need to be so big. Let's bring it back down to 70. I think 70 is fine. Okay, yeah, sure. That looks a little better. So instead of submit, we're going to say save changes, and then you're going to call the update furniture. Yes, very good. Update furniture, and then we're going to call this, instead of text editor 1, we're going to call this update description. Okay. So just to make it super clear what this thing is doing, I'm going to say this is the description. And let's give it a like H4. H5. Okay. And I'm just going to put a couple of things in here right now, just to make it a little easier for us later on, because we're going to do product name as well as a couple of other fields. So the editable text default value is going to be the furniture click handler data 0 fields name, and then this is going to say product name, furniture name, And then we can make this that looks good. And we'll add in a few other things later on as well. Let's actually keep this up to the right as well. I think that looks kind of weird. You can't win with this. That's okay. Anyhow, okay, so this is working pretty well. So let's name this update name. And let's exit out of here. And let's just make sure button 1 triggers the update. Okay, perfect. So we'll close this modal now. And let's go back to our API response. Our API call. So update furniture, and we got 2 things that we want to do here, right? So we are going to want to go to the organized furniture updates data, and then fields is going to be furniture description of value. That's not what we want. We now want the update furniture dot data. So whatever that is going to run that, and then also let's put in fields dot name equals update name. This is dot data. It's probably because of the object type that you're getting these differences. Let's go ahead and save that. So when we preview it, we should see the same thing, no errors. For a chair, key value 1. Ooh, wait a second. That's, oh, whoops. We need to change the name of our modal over there. So, let's make this a little smaller. This guy, update description. That's why it's not update furniture, update description. Update description dot value. One more time. Fields 2. Description that, name that. Okay, so we're gonna save this. And now what we're gonna do is, let's drop this down. Okay, so this is the Ikori chair. And so what we expect to happen when we make this change is that on Airtable, we're going to see that change made. Let's close this out, go over to the description section. So the Ikori chair is in line number 6 here. So this guy, once we change it, let's just keep it simple. The description is, this is a chair named Ikori, right? And when we hit the save button, we expect that it's going to run data. Must provide an array of up to 10 record items, each with an item ID and features above certain cells. Okay, so we ran into an issue. But that's okay, because we have a description of what the issue is. So when we preview this, the error statement says you must provide an array of up to 10 records, each with an ID field and a field of its own. So what do we send in API? Okay. So here, it's furniture data. So it's null right now because this didn't get run. This needs to get run before we trigger the event. Okay, so this is all about timing now. So what we're going to do is we're going to set this button to run that query. So instead of doing update furniture, we're going to say organize furniture data. Okay, and then once that is finished running, once this is finished running, we're going to say update furniture. And then that should actually do what we need it to do. let's go ahead and try that again. So save changes. Furniture update ran successfully. So if we go back to Airtable, is it changed? It is changed. This is a chair named Ikrore. Okay, perfect. So this is exactly what we wanted to do. Now we can do patch requests for each product that we have. So let's go ahead and hit the preview button here. And so we're going to select the vendor. We're going to do the whole thing. We're going to select the vendor, Dime Design. Let's say the Ikrore chair, right? There's only one of them. So let's click on this guy. It's going to pop up all the details. We're going to look at it. This is a chair named Ikrore. This is actually all kind of messed up. We'll fix that in a bit. But first, let's test this out. So the chair named Ikrore. It is a nice chair. Very comfortable to sit on. And then we can say Ikrore chair 2. So we're gonna hit the save changes. Query ran successful, query ran successfully. We go back to the product data. So this has the -2, and then this has the updated description that we wanted. And that's exactly what we wanted to do. Before we close out here though, let's try to, I guess, fix this layout thing, whatever happened here when we added the additional modal. The image is clearly bleeding over when it shouldn't. So this is all about layout. So we're gonna dump that down. We gotta select this stuff because everything's hidden. And then we'll select the Ikrore chair. Or maybe it says Ikrore. All right, so I don't know how you ended up down there. Go back up. Whoop, not too up. There, okay. One more time. So now that you know how to do a patch request into Airtable and change your data in your tables, you can do this for basically any field that you have there. The only thing you have to keep in mind is that for some of the Airtable fields, there are going to be restrictions. So say if it's a date, you're going to have to give it a date format. If it is a drop down, you have to make sure that you're passing through values that are accepted in that drop down. Same thing goes for multi-selectors or people values or anything like that. You just have to follow the formats. But the good thing about Airtable is that when you run into an issue like that, the error message is pretty verbose. So when you do see the error, it's going to tell you exactly what wasn't accepted or why it was rejected. Of course, if you do have issues with it, feel free to just drop a comment in the section below. I've done a lot of Airtable work, so feel free to comment and I'll try to help you out. But that wraps it up for this video. If you liked it, please hit the like button. To smash that like button is the easiest thing that you can do to help support our channel. If you want to get updated on some of the other videos that we're going to be releasing, this is once again part 5 of a multi-part series. We still have a couple of more things that we want to do with this Retool plus Airtable low code application. So hit the subscribe button and hit the notification bell so that you can get notified when the next video releases. We also have other videos on there as well. We have a series called Community Support where we answer questions from the community of bootstrappers and entrepreneurs who are having issues or just trouble and need help. So make sure to hit the like button, subscribe, get updates with the bell. I'm a guy called Joe. This is Bootstrapping Tools. It's been a pleasure, and we're out.